Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, I want to discuss a topic which has been on the minds of fans ever since the start of Dragon Ball Z, more particularly early on in the Saiyan Saga, after Raditz came to the Earth and explained to Goku his origins, something I talked about in a video you could see on my channel in the end screen of this video and down below in the description. But during that conversation, Raditz discussed something that a lot of fans have been pondering about and theorizing ever since then, which is the planet that he, Vegeta, and Nappa were planning to invade, to take on and wipe out the native population so that they would be able to sell the planet, the very reason that Raditz came to the Earth and tried to recruit Goku. This was really in many ways the impetus for the story of Dragon Ball Z and that entire section of the manga. So the question is, what planet even was that? Well, I do think that there's actually some in-universe evidence that we can go over using the manga, and I'm going to be doing that in this video, so let's get into it right now. So of course, like I said before, all of this began with the Saiyan Saga, and particularly the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. Raditz shows up, he tells Goku the reason why he's there, that Goku is in fact a Saiyan, and not just that, but he also explains to him the very reason why he's there, which is that all of our proud and mighty race, only 4 warriors remain, including you, giving kind of backstory into how many Saiyans are left over after the destruction of planet Vegeta. We survived only because we were on other worlds exterminating their natives, because we were doing wrong, as you put it, we are alive. We remaining 3 recently found a planet which we know can be sold for a very high price. The locals, however, are potent. Even 3 Saiyan may have trouble. Ah, but 4 of us. Thank the gods I remembered you, eh? Even my long-lost, ill-trained amnesiac brother should be enough to tip the scales. So this is the reason why Raditz came to the Earth, so that he could try and take Goku and bring him there to battle alongside him, Vegeta, and Nappa in order to overcome the inhabitants. Picture the carnage. Feel your Saiyan blood stir, Kakarot. I won't, I'd rather die. And this is, of course, the point where he says that he won't do this, and Raditz gets in the idea of, using Gohan in order to have him be a pawn in this by making him kind of a hostage and possibly even taking him and using him in this case. But with that being said, this planet must have been pretty potent, as Raditz puts it, in order for any of these Saiyans to have any struggle. After all, the Saiyans were, maybe if you break it down based upon literally every single inhabitant of their species before Frieza wiped it out, on average, the most powerful fighters in the universe as a race. So why were they going to need Goku to help them out? After all, not only do we know that Vegeta, the prince of the Saiyans, the most powerful one at the time, not counting Broly and then Bardock back in time and whatever else they throw in there, maybe even Paragus, what we know is that Vegeta had a power level so great that Goku had to use Kaioken after he trained with the most prominent god we'd ever seen at that point, just to be able to take him on. Goku used a Kaioken times 2 and still was getting kind of wrecked by Vegeta and got his armor, his force field was bypassed by Vegeta's attacks. Goku had to whip out a times 3 just to combat Vegeta and basically was breaking his own body down. And then later on, when Vegeta gets so angry, let's go forward when he's using the Gareka Ho, or the Gallic Gun, of course, and he fires it at Goku. Goku had to actually use a times 4 just to overpower Vegeta, raising his power level to 32,000 from over 8, 33 maybe, who knows how much over 8 it was. Some people say over 9 because of the dub. But nonetheless, Vegeta still survived this, but that's not all, because as we know, that was just base Vegeta's power level. Vegeta's, let's say his normal form rather than the primal form that the Saiyans are capable of transforming into when they gaze upon the moon at its full power, let's say, its full cycle, full moon, and then it reflects the light into their eyes. They undergo this horrifying transformation into the Great Ape, or Ozaru, and it multiplies their power by 10 times. Now, of course, you can make an argument that it should be way more than 10 times, considering they go from like Vegeta's being like, what, 5'4" to like, 27 feet tall or something right here, basically King Kong size. So like, obviously he should be more than 10 times. But in universe, 10 times is the multiplier. So Vegeta, who had a power level of 18,000, would have a power level of 180,000. Raditz would have a power level of 12,000. Nappa would have a power level of 80,000, or not 80,000, about 40,000 to 60,000, depending upon if you actually think he really was a 4,000. Many people say he was 6. And Goku at this point would have had a power level of 80,000. So if he became an Ozaru, which he couldn't anymore because Kami permanently removed his tail. So what warrior race in the universe could have possibly been able to be so potent as Nappa, or Raditz puts it rather, in order to take on all of these different fighters? What race is there that we find out about later on that actually had this ability? Well, speaking of later on, let's kind of give some more context here. Talk about how the Ginyu Force were called in by Frieza not too long after everything was going on in Namek, after he found out about the Earthlings showing up there. He started to get a little bit worried about the rise of a Super Saiyan among the different Saiyans, not just Vegeta, but also Goku, which he would be correct about because of his premonition. And so he decides to bring in the Ginyu Special Force, the most powerful fighters on Frieza's team. And all of the Ginyu Force were powerful mutants who each had power levels far surpassing Vegeta, even after he'd gotten the Zenkai boost on Namek, after being beaten up by Zarbon, jumping into the upper 20s, low 30s range, whereas Raccoon, Birder, Jace, all of them except for Guldo had power levels greater than that. Captain Ginyu had a power level of 120,000, which actually means that Vegeta would have been about 1.5 times stronger than him as his Ozaru form, although I'm sure that Ginyu and the others probably could have just cut his tail off at that point. So that means that whatever this potent race would have to be would be more powerful, or at least even giving the Ginyu Force significant trouble against them. So again, who could this possibly be? Well, I think the one in-universe answer that we're able to get would have to come down to something that we actually get near the start of the Cell Saga, after Goku returns, has this little sparring event with Trunks, and then learns about everything that's going to happen 3 years in the future. After that, we get more of an explanation of how Goku survived and escaped from Planet Namek right when it was about to explode, because the fact that, well, he seemed like he was kind of out of luck there. So what exactly happened? Well, Goku so happened to find one of the Ginyu Force spaceships that was nearby, get into it, and get away from there. Vegeta, of course, recognizes this is one of the Ginyu Special Forces, particular spacecraft. And then at this point, Goku said that he just jumped on, hit the buttons, and then it automatically went flying, and it landed on a planet called Yardrat. And of course, what does Vegeta say right here? Ginyu and his men were in the middle of conquering it. It had been programmed to go there automatically. Then those odd clothes are from Yardrat. Yeah, I made friends with the people there. They gave me this. Kind of looks lame, huh? I don't know. I always saw his Yardrat outfit actually look kind of cool. Trouble was, mine were all ripped up. I know you wouldn't leave without some kind of strange technique or strength. I bet you were learning from them. Bingo, you're no dummy, Vegeta. Well, it depends on if, he's fighting Cell or somebody, and then he lets his ego get control of him. And I get it, so that's why he didn't come back until now. And of course, at this point, he learns about what? One of Goku's most iconic techniques, which obviously isn't his originally, the Shunkan Ito teleportation, or instant transmission, where you can go across the globe and, basically anywhere else in the universe or to other dimensions, so long as he can sense it. But I think, again, this is probably the best in-universe answer that we could actually get. The Ginyu Force actually went from Yardrat to Namek in order to help Frieza against Goku and friends, and as a result, they had to stop their conquering of it. The thing is, of course, that the Ginyu Force, it says, were in the middle of conquering it, which means that the people on Yardrat obviously were so powerful that the Ginyu Force couldn't just come in and instantly conquer the planet. They still had to fight against them. And, many people over the years have talked about maybe how the Yardrat's way of teleporting is one of the biggest reasons why they're so difficult to overcome. Of course, later on, Dragon Ball Super, we learn about Spirit and all those different types of techniques that they could utilize. But at this point in the story, it seems like not only do they likely have these powerful techniques, but also enough strength in order to even make the Ginyu Force have a little bit of difficulty with them. So it only makes sense that if the Ginyu Force were struggling, that maybe Frieza would have brought in some more of his heavy hitters like Vegeta, Nappa, and of course Raditz, who wanted to seek out somebody else to help them, which ended up being who but Goku. And as a result, it makes a little bit more sense if we go with the whole Yardrat explanation as to why he needed to find somebody to help them out because, well, with the Yardratians, I guess, they needed all the help they could get. So in universe, this is the only real explanation that we have based upon any kind of evidence, at least. The other one could be that it's just another planet that we're never actually told, that's never actually alluded to, and that they just completely give up on after, everything that happens on Namek. After all, Vegeta would have no reason to go and invade a planet and take it over for Frieza because, well, Frieza was dead at this point. Not to mention that at the same time, Vegeta was so powerful that he wouldn't have to ever really deal with anything like that to begin with. His character was already starting to change. He was living on Earth at this point. He had already kind of met Bulma. And not too long after that, he met her, in the terms of meeting her, that's for sure. And he knew her in the biblical sense, let's say. And then after that, what ends up happening? Well, like I said before, that planet was never actually finished being invaded by the Ginyu Force. They were able to survive and then help out Vegeta later on, ironically. So that's kind of a funny way of everything coming full circle in Dragon Ball Super. But what about out of universe? Well, let's get into that now. Now, out of universe, I think it's very likely also that Toriyama maybe didn't even have a planet in mind. It was just something that was more that he could reference to and give Raditz an impetus to show up, this newly introduced character, so that he could introduce audiences to the new tonal shift and the new shift in genre to be more science fiction, the Saiyan race, not only that new genre, but also the storyline with the Saiyans, who are very much, inspired by like Superman, for example, as well as Goku's backstory itself, same with Kami later in the arc. And then additionally, give us more of an explanation as to what Goku would have been doing had he stuck around with the Saiyans, had he not, hit his head, lost his memory, and so on. Again, like I talked about in that other video. So it's entirely possible Toriyama just came up with the idea of a planet, but never actually had one in mind, and that Yardrat itself might just be an example of another planet that, kind of was another example here of how Goku got away. Well, he kind of went to some other planet that the Ginyu Force was already going to, so maybe that was one and the same, or maybe they're two different ones entirely. But do you think that maybe it was Yardrat? Also, what other planet do you think it might have been? Do you think maybe it was even the planet that Vegeta and Nappa were already on when they came to the Earth? Although they didn't seem to be having too much of a difficulty. Let me know down below. Also, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more to come in the future. Thank you all. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.